All right, it is 5:15. We are in the City Hall Council chambers, and this is the Board of Public Works. Next item on the agenda is consider approving the minutes from the previous meeting. That was June 26th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the June 26th meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is water and sewer agenda items. Discuss and approve the water and sewer vouchers.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the water and sewer vouchers. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is review of 2024 sanitary survey. Gabe?
This is a survey that our engineer Basin with the DNR comes and inspects every 3 years. They just asked us to share the report with the board. This last year, there's nothing major, no significant deficiencies, just a few minor ones that have just labeling of some outlets and then record keeping for tower inspections. The other one for material inventory, I'll go over later in my operations, and that's for the lead and copper. Otherwise, it's just a description of everything that he went through and what we all have for wells and all that. If there's any questions.
I believe it was brought up before, but I know you guys are still looking at where the unaccounted for water is. I think for leaks and stuff. I think that was in there. Has there been any updated ever about?
We didn't get from last year's through the PSC report yet. We did find a very significant leak 2 months ago, and that was in a private, the Spirus on the grounds. We knew there was a leak there somewhere, and we're looking, and that will bring our water loss down significantly.
Good.
Probably average 2 to 3 million extra gallons a month is how much it was running right into a storm drain and into the river. So it never came up.
That should help drastically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you need a motion to send it to council, or is it just review?
Oh, just a review to put out in
Okay.
public.
All right, moving on is water and sewer operations monthly report. Gabe?
We had a leaking pipe in our booster station on South Center. It's by the Rockwood Veterinarian Clinic. It's underground pumps, and that boosts water to everything out on Nicholas Drive and that. We discovered that the alarms caught it in time, so we didn't have no major issues electronically. We'll be repairing that here in the next month and have more permanent fix on it. We're continuing cleaning sewers, manhole inspections, and checking water main gates. We've installed the remaining laterals for Johnson Street housing. We continue to do the general maintenance and summer maintenance at the wastewater plant. We have had a few power outages this summer. We've been able to get to the lift stations in time for backup generators, and then our automatic generators are kicking in too. Lead and copper service line inventory, that was put in sanitary survey. That has to be put into the DNR by October 16th, and it'll be forwarded to the EPA. It's required. It started in 2021, and everything will have to be in by the 16th. What it consists of is we have to identify all of our utility-owned services and account for every homeowner side service. So we're attempting to get into the houses here. We started in about 2019, and we probably got into 1,300 houses. So we have 2,200 roughly houses that we have to get into. So when we send in the inventory list in October, we have 30 days to mail out letters to everyone that we haven't gotten into. So expecting a mad dash of getting into houses. There is on the city website that homeowners or anybody can go down by their meter. There's directions on taking a picture with your cell phone, and it'll link right onto the city site, and it'll email it to us. So it's going to be a big project here, and then most likely once it's all done, we'll have to look at replacing anything with lead. Right now on the city side, we don't have any lead that we know of. It's all been removed with construction projects. But we'll be looking at some galvanized service that the city owns. The good news is right now we only have like 38 services. A lot of them will be taken up with future construction projects, and we'll take care of them as time goes over a 10-year period. Anybody has any questions on that?
Any questions? All right. Thank you. Next is discuss the 2025 capital requests for utility. You want to start with the digester cleaning and
Okay.
inspection and the water filter maintenance. Those were the two in the pack. Oh, and you
Okay.
just keep going.
First one is digester cleaning. I have it priced at $70,000. As of now, our first price of the company that did it last time is possibly 3 times that much. We're gonna keep looking, so it might not be for this next year, but there's a lot of other options out there that we can go through. So that would be more of a 2025 and possibly into 2026 for lining up, because we have to have the proper fields to dispose of that on. Next one is water filter maintenance. It's 12 years old, and we have one of the manways that's deteriorating, so we're going to replace that. And at the same time, we'll open everything up, look at the media inside of it, and if need be, we'll replace some of the media. That's normally every 4 years we've been replacing the media, partial bed of it.
And that was from when we had the,
Manganese.
Manganese,
and
right.
iron removal, yeah.
right,
The next one is the landfill testing. Right now, we're going to be sending in a request to the DNR for reduced testing, and we feel if that happens, we can start testing it ourselves. So this would just be the purchase of the equipment. Be a lot more cost effective than hiring out this, for the sampling to be done. We used to do it a dozen years ago, and prior we used to do all the testing of it. So I think we can take that on with our operators.
Just the sampling?
The sampling, yeah. Wells 3 and 5, the roofs will need to be replaced. Well 3 is the one on Water Street in the 6th Ward, and well 5 is on Thielman Street by the cemetery.
can we put metal on versus, I mean, would that last longer? Would it be more efficient than shingles?
Well 3 possibly, 5 they have to look at a little closer because that's a concrete roof.
Oh,
But I can I'll ask them.
I'm just thinking of longevity,
Long term, yeah.
you know, it might be a little bit more in the up front, but
Mm-hmm. And the two that I added, primary drives for the clarifiers, they're over 25 years old. One of them, the gearings are starting to go out. This price is a little high. We just actually got a price in for them today, and that first price came in at 15,000. So we'll wait for a few more other prices, and I can adjust that before the cow meeting. And the last one is manhole lining. We have 8 manholes that are deteriorating, and most of them are on one of the on Water Street, where they're planned on to be resurfaced. These manholes can't really be replaced just because of the depth, and the water main is above it, and just placing so it's more cost effective to come in and cement them up. If there's any other questions?
so on the, excuse me, on the first one, for the digester cleaning, you wanna, if we forward it on to council and then at the budget meetings, we could look at if we wanna delay it or whatever
Mhm. Right.
at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel comfortable at the 70,000 or do you wanna,
I'm feeling more comfortable with it. We've been talking to a few other companies,
okay,
and thinking that should be around the area. Just the other company quit land applying it and only landfills it, so that's where the fees would have come.
okay,
So
We're going about 2 years beyond our normal cycle for cleaning
mhm.
at this pace, so it's, we can't put it off one more year. It just gives us less volume in the digesters.
okay. I will make a motion to forward the capital requests to the capital meeting.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second to forward the capital requests to the capital budget meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have street department agenda items, discuss and approve the vouchers of the street department.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the vouchers from the street department. Any discussion?
I just have one, I'm not gonna call out the page, but I don't think we should be calling out the employees' names, for drug tests. You know, putting the employees' names on here for drug tests.
That's
We'll just redact them in the future.
sure.
That's all I have.
But basically, it's just a random poll in it that,
Yeah, and I'm surprised the names are on there. It's a it's not
And
a
I'm,
random poll, but
this was the first one that I had seen.
Yeah.
I mean,
something might have changed.
I
But
know
we'll
that we do that because of the invoices, just because they're coming in and it's one way to tell which invoice you're paying. I think they just do that for record keeping. But we can find another way to do that.
anything further?
They passed, Mike.
and that's fine.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have capital requests from the street department.
All right. Well, you may remember that we had initially planned on replacing a street sweeper in 2025. However, due to mostly some sticker shock, decided to kind of go back to the drawing board. We're not putting as many hours in the street sweeper as we used to, either of them, so we're going to run them for a little while longer. So we decided to start hopefully chipping away at some of our older pickup trucks. The first one listed here is actually the newer of the two, but it has a lot of hours on it. It's a 1-ton dump truck, but it is used for snow plowing in the wintertime, also for the alleys. The reason it has so many hours on it was actually the old recycling truck that pulled the trailer around town. So it idled 8 hours a day all year long. So it's just starting to rot is essentially it, especially running it in winter time. We've got the floorboards welded back together, and it's actually at OCD right now getting a high pressure fuel pump, so it's getting there. We'd replace it with something similar, stainless steel box. We've been having really good luck with those. And then just a V-plow. We would not put a sander back in the new one. We're finding that one is good enough for the parking lot salting that we do, so we save some money there. But a new V-plow for it. The second truck is our sewer truck. It's the 2002. We actually bought that used in '09. That one's also just kind of starting to rot away. And we find that when you get near 15 to especially over 20 years old, just getting parts is getting more difficult. Vendors don't keep stuff for 20-year-old trucks in stock. So believe it or not, I'm sure, Mike, you've seen this. We've had to get things from salvage yards just to, because of those quite often for trucks like this.
Right.
And especially on specialty trucks that were custom built. Fuel pumps are different. Fuel tanks are bigger and longer. So it's just getting more and more difficult to fix it. And just today they told me that the crane went out of it. So we'll be replacing that just so at least it works, or at least replacing the motor in it. But that would be the other one that we'd like to replace next year as far as equipment. Similar thing, probably actually a two-wheel drive truck. It doesn't ever get used in the wintertime, so four-wheel drive is not an issue, and two-wheel drive will help keep it lower, so getting into the body, all the access, the boxes is easier. But we would put either an aluminum or a plastic body on it instead of steel, just to prevent corrosion and longevity. So.
I know what you're saying about the two-wheel drive, but are we better off in the long run going all-wheel drive for resale, or doesn't it really?
If we're gonna run them till they rust through, I don't know that.
I
Okay.
don't think it really matters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, we've never had a need for this one to be four-wheel drive. If it's an emergency in winter, it comes out maybe once or twice a winter tops.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know if you want a motion on that or if you want to wait till we go through resurfacing. But as far as our resurfacing plan for next year, we'd like to keep the level at the same as it was last year at 200,000. Our plan would be to mill off the asphalt at West First and West Main, so essentially the three-way stop, the three-arch bridge. We'd go back across the bridge and then as far west onto West Main as we need to, just a little bit past the stop sign. It's really starting to deteriorate, and it's a tough place to try to patch just because of the traffic and everything. So it's kind of a unique design there. The bridge has actually got gravel. The arches come together, the concrete arches, and then there's gravel on top of that, and then asphalt. So we got to be careful how deep we mill so we don't get into the bridge substrate, obviously, but we would probably take at least 3 inches off there. The other one is a lot longer project, Water Street. It's probably going to be a 2-year project, but we would go for sure from South Thomas to South Oregon. Curb and gutter is good. Like Gabe mentioned, he would do some sanitary sewer rehab, and we would do some storm sewer work ahead of time like usual, but we would take all the asphalt out of that project and replace it with 3 inches. Depending on where bids go, we may, stretch it a little further, but for sure from Thomas to Oregon is the worst stretch in there right by Sierra Pacific.
I'll make a motion to forward this to the
Capital budget.
capital budget call.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second to forward this to the capital budget committee of the whole. Any discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider selling city-owned properties, see attached.
You missed one. There's another capital request
Oh.
on the agenda.
Capital projects.
Capital projects.
Capital street improvement projects. We're looking at State Street from Grand Ave to 10th Street. This project would be close to $1 million. We may cut that into 2 projects. We want to just be able to see what borrowing could support this as far as sewer, water, and TID funds. So this may get cut into 2 projects. We'll determine that in the next couple of weeks here before Capital. Highway G, the Little Florida and Geis's Meat would like to hook into our sanitary system, and we've talked about that before at a couple different meetings. Their price for an 8-inch sanitary line with all the manholes is a little over $400,000. We would like to upsize that to probably a 12-inch. I mean, our cost would be $120,000. That would go from Johnson Street east on Highway G to where the gas substation is, the overhead power line. It would run all the way up to Highway 51, where this project would end, and they would take off boring underneath 51, boring under the Prairie River and connecting in by the Geis Meat Service for the whole trailer court and for the business that is out there. Again, we had told them that we would not help, but we would allow them to hook into our system if they paid for everything. But in saying that, that would be the time to run water at the same time. We would install a 12-inch water main out to the industrial park where we turn north, and then we're going to kind of see what size we need from there. But I'm thinking we should run 12-inch at least to where it goes north, and then probably a 8-inch 3/4 of the way up that run also, and that price would be $400,000. I know these sound like large numbers, but it's kind of chicken and egg. Do we wait for something to go out there, or do we put the utilities in hoping that once they're in, something will happen out there? We had also talked about logging that off, and we are in the process of working on that also to get some pricing. The third one, we have a retaining wall that's, if you look just to the east of the Cosmo where that alley goes down, the retaining wall that holds call it the alley up. There's a entrance into the Cosmo down below. That wall has been tipped for several years, and we thought this was an opportune time to repair that. We don't notice a whole lot of increase in the tipping. We've been watching it for years, but we want to repair that before something happens. The price that we have is in the neighborhood of $35,000. That would include us tearing it out and probably a portion of probably all the blacktop down to the bottom of the hill there, and repaving that and repouring the wall and a couple of steps to get down into there. So it's $35,000 was our estimate on that. Any question on these three items?
I wasn't at the prior meeting. I guess, can you explain why the city would want something that wasn't owned by the city tied into our water?
We're probably in the neighborhood of, they're going to pay for $400,000 that would get it. We would have to pay that to get it to the industrial park.
Okay, so it helps us get it there would be
Correct.
the city's incentive to do it.
And once they're hooked into our system, it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of $20,000 worth of fees per year that they're going to be paying, $20,000 to $25,000.
Oh,
So it is we have to treat their waste, so there is a cost involved with that. But Gabe, you can speak on it. I think we can supplement our income that way, our revenue sources.
so we don't think we'd be losing money, or if there was maintenance? No, okay.
No, we talked and would be able to handle their waste from out there, and then we come up with the fees for them.
And you sampled their product.
Yeah, there's no.
We're
no
worried
issue.
about BOD and certain other things with, they have a blood separator at their slaughter plant, so we don't want a lot of that. So they were able to prove to us that the product that we would get would be something we could handle.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
The
it's not water, it's just the waste.
Yep, and the big thing is we want to get sewer and water out to that area. It's an area that's already annexed in, and if we don't get commercial development out there, industrial development, we may churn the idea and maybe do housing out there. So it's one of these things where I think it's a prime area for development, one way or
Okay.
another.
Yeah, it makes sense, thank you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to forward to the capital projects board or cow meeting the capital projects listed.
No second? So we have a motion and a second to forward the proposed capital projects for 2025 to the Capital Committee of the Whole meeting. Any further discussion?
I guess just to add, I was asked, how come we bring them to the committees? Why don't we just take them right to the council? And I think or we all think it's good to bring them to you guys so you have an understanding and you have a chance to say, no, let's lay off on that one, or you have an opportunity to kind of go through the list before we get there. So,
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to consider selling city-owned properties.
Darren and I and the mayor came up with a list here. We went through our properties. Darren did a good job researching everything that we owned, and this is the list that we came up with. We'd like to put this out for sale, and we've done that in the past by accepting bids on these properties. Most of them are vacant lots. Some of them are pieces of right-of-way. I guess if you look at the list, we'll see what we get for the lots, but I think between the maintenance, the mowing, and the opportunity to get them back on the tax rolls, I think this is a good list to go with.
Do we want to add, are we going to add 1905 Jackson?
What's that?
Can we add?
Yep. That's 1905 Jackson Street is also a vacant lot that we'd like to add to this list. There's an alleyway between 603 and 605 South Foster. We can do this through two ways, and I kind of went over this with Tom. We do have to have all the adjoining property owners agree with vacating this property, but it would be our vacation, not a petition for vacation, so it operates a little differently. This is an active, well, not an active alley, it's a driveway for 603 and 605. And we do have signatures from both parties, and I know we have one party here that would like to see that vacated so they can maintain it proper, the way they think that it should be maintained and at a timely fashion, so. And the other one on Arthur Street, right away, it's not a street right now, it's grass on the east side of, or on the west side of Eugene Street, which is bordered by two other properties, and on the west side, it's the new apartment buildings, the Nicolay Premier apartment complex. We're not gonna stick a road in there, and again, we're going to ask all three sides for, to sign off on selling that property, so.
So are we looking for a motion to take bids on it?
Correct.
Okay, I would make a motion to accept bids on these properties.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to put out for bid the city-owned properties on the list, and to add 1905 Jackson to the list too.
And just for your information, the two pieces of right-of-way, the normal procedure is like on the alleyway, it's 16 feet, so 8 feet will go to each property owner. We wouldn't get a bid on that one, that's kind of automatic, but it's us looking to get rid of it, not a petition to vacate. So that's the process we'd like to pursue. And the other one is the same way. We have a property owner on the north side of that Arthur Street that would like all 60 feet of it, and he has an agreement with the person on the south side, so he can put a bigger home on the north lot, which helps us also with housing and tax base.
Are you in agreement with adding the 19?
Yes.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider a land partial exchange with Freemark to facilitate the trail connection and stormwater discharge. See the map enclosed.
If you look at the north-south road running at Cedar Street, and then 14th Street would be the east-west road. We own a piece which is on the end of Cedar Street that's outlined in blue. Freemark owns a piece on the end of 14th Street, north of the development of Spruce Street Extension, and all of 14th Street water runs to the west. We need to take that water north and have a stormwater discharge somewhere in that red triangle where it would go into the old Prairie River Mill Pond. So we need that piece of property that's outlined in red, and we just feel that would be a good opportunity for us to acquire that property. And the Freemark would like the piece that's outlined in blue for possibility of putting probably 2 homes on the end of Cedar Street, which again, we would like to see more housing and increased tax base. The city of Merrill is south of that yellow line and the town of Merrill is north, but those 2 pieces would be annexed in if they did put homes on the end of Cedar Street. So when we talk about property, either disposing or selling a property, it's supposed to come to this committee, and it is parkland, so it will also go to the Park and Rec Commission, but I wanted to get it in front of this board first. I guess the trail extension, we had talked about a connector trail from the Riverbend Trail up to the Prairie Trail. We have a route that we have designated, and it would come up Mill Street to 10th Street and then over to the Spruce Street extension, and then once we got to where Spruce Street and 14th Street, which is straight south of this red parcel here, it would go straight north, and you can see the trail just to the north of that red parcel where we would like to tie into. The trail would be placed going straight north and south, and the stormwater would be pipe would be right underneath that, and then go off and discharge prior to connecting into the trail there. So that's kind of the plan. We're doing 2 things. We're allowing trail connection and stormwater. So.
I'll make a motion to approve the land parcel exchange with Furmark.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the land parcel exchange with Freemark. Any further discussion? It would just be like title costs, right, for us?
For us.
So,
I don't know that this has to go to, Tom, does this have to go to council? I suppose it should.
Yes, it should go to council.
We're talking about property, so.
any,
Forward it to council.
yep, forward to council. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Monthly reports, building inspector, zoning administrator, Pago.
Does anyone have any questions?
Nothing? City administrator, public works director, city engineer, Ake.
I think last month I said that O'Day Street would be being paved soon. Well, soon is tomorrow and Friday, so that's the latest update we have, and I appreciate everybody in that area kind of working with us. It's been kind of a busy year for some of the contractors. It hasn't really been on our part, it's been on their schedule, so we do have a completion date deadline of September 17th, but we started this project very early in the year, and we'd like to see it done as soon as possible. I guess if there's any other questions on the rest of my report, I'll take it.
Hearing none, we'll move on to street superintendent Bonak.
A lot of concrete work right now. Still finished the 7th district. We are working on the 8th right now. We're actually still working a little bit in the 7th. We're on, you've probably seen us on the hill by the hospital. That's a pretty long stretch. We're going to be pouring half of that tomorrow. We just started the Otts boat landing repair project, whatever you want to call it, this week. We'll be putting the panels in next week and then hopefully pouring the approach right away. So Otherwise, it's street painting and blacktopping and concrete like usual.
Any questions? Street and Weed Commissioner Liberty.
Any questions on my report?
Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to place the committee reports on file.
So
I'll make-
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to place the committee reports on file. Any just, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Date and time of next meeting, we got Wednesday, September 25th, 5:15. That work? Public comment period.
How long will this take, find out about the vacation that I have? Is that something that,
I would think it's probably gonna be in the October council meeting, hopefully beginning of October.
and, the other question, where is the actual edge of the alley, so I know that 8 feet is 8 feet,
Uh,
you know?
we will come out there, we don't survey it, but we'll come out there and we have a corner right there where we should get you your idea, your proper line.
Thank you.
Any further public comment? Last call for public comment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.